For today's very first episode of the Mindful Minute, I wanted to talk about fear. So fear is extremely debilitating for a lot of us, and there are so many reasons why someone can be fearful. Videotaping this YouTube episode was extremely fearful for me. I personally have spoken in front of hundreds of crowds. I've taught hundreds of employees in my past career. I've done so many things where I've had a voice in front of people. That's not what is fearful for me. Speaking to my cell phone camera is fearful for me. Don't ask me why, but it's intimidating. I feel silly doing it, and it takes a lot of practice and effort and work just to not feel silly talking to my phone. So I don't know why that instills fear in me. It doesn't make sense to me. I think it's silly. It almost embarrassed me. I didn't want to talk about it. But the reality is, it's something that was scary. It's taken me a lot of effort and days of just telling myself, Leah, it's okay. Everybody does this. So many people walk down the street and talk to their cell phones, and I think, I don't know if I can be that person. So I'm trying to work at it. But that's why I wanted to talk about fear, because fear impacts us in so many ways in our lives that we may not understand. And of course, there are situations that are obviously fearful. Being an abuse survivor was fearful. People have fears of insects, of situations, of heights, of all sorts of things. There's phobias that are very debilitating fears. So how do we really overcome fear? We overcome fear by thinking about what grounds us. What grounds us? Courage, right? When we're courageous, we overcome that fear. We essentially tell our fears to go away, that we're going to be okay, that we're safe, that there's no reason to let this fear stop us in our tracks and let this fear hold us back from accomplishing something that we really want to accomplish. So why would I let my silly fear of talking to my camera phone stop me from accomplishing my goals and my dreams of wanting to reach out and help other people in any way that I can, which for me translated into doing a mindfulness segment on YouTube. That was something important to me. It was heartfelt for me. I was not consciously going to allow my fear to stop me from accomplishing that. So the point in my segment today is that fear affects everybody in ways that we may not all be able to relate to, in ways that we may not all be able to understand, but the common relation is that we all know what fear feels like. So essentially, I chose to be mindful in how I applied courage to videotaping today's segment for YouTube. So do you see what I'm talking about? How with each little thing that we encounter in life, mindfulness plays a factor. I remember many, many years ago, mindfulness was kind of a cliche term. Not too many people really took it seriously. It was very hippie, it was very yuppie, or whatever people called it, lots of different things. But when you really think about it, it's an important thing that we need to apply to our lives. We have to be mindful of who we are. We have to be mindful of how we are. And through each of those things that we become more mindful of, that's what allows us to grow. It's what allows us to grow as people. It's what allows us to grow spiritually. It's what allows us to use those fundamental things in life to accomplish what we want to accomplish, to achieve our goals, to complete our tasks, and to just grow up, if you want to say it that bluntly, and evolve. I love the word evolution in relation to who we are and how we are as people, because it's a growth. Yes, there's always constant growth, but an evolution is a real, just tangible change in every way possible, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I love that evolution. So, in essence, and see, this is one of the reasons why I was fearful, because I didn't want to be scripted on YouTube. I didn't want to just speak and talk and talk and talk and then bore my audience and ramble on and blah, blah, blah. So I have to really essentially continue to overcome my fear, allow myself to flow, allow my thoughts to flow, and allow that meaningfulness to really sink in with those who are watching. So another aspect of fear is not just relatable to us as people, but there are also generations that are affected by fear. So today, for my very first YouTube segment, I have my very first YouTube guest as well. My daughter Chloe is going to be joining us and talking a little bit about what it's like to conquer fear as an adolescent teenage girl in high school. Come on, Chloe. I would like to introduce my daughter Chloe.
Hello.
So Chloe is a freshman in high school this year, which we all know is scary. High school is scary. School is scary. And being a teenage girl in high school is even scarier. So I thought it'd be fun and helpful for Chloe to come answer a couple questions and just give a little bit of advice to her peers in school as well as her adolescent female peers on things that she's experienced in ways that have helped her overcome hers. So Chloe, what was it like going to your very first day of 9th grade in high school?
I mean, I was really excited because you always see on the movies, like, high school is, like, a huge deal. Like, it's always so, it seems so cool. They make it seem so much fun. Like, everyone gets along, and everyone's always talking to each other, and everyone has their little groups, which is, like, the cliche kind of, there's the jocks and the nerds and all that. So I thought that's how it was going to be. I was like, well, there must be those groups, you know?
Was it scary to think about all of those things? And
it was scary because I didn't know which group I fit into. I didn't know where I was going to be because I was just used to middle school and everyone did their own thing in middle school.
Yeah. So on your first day, what was it like walking around a brand new campus, meeting brand new teachers, seeing a school of brand new faces? Tell me how that felt.
It was interesting because I didn't know the high school I go to is huge. It's a big campus and there's classrooms all over and I didn't know where any of my classes were. So it was very scary and it was hard to adjust because I had classrooms on one end of the school, then I had to walk all the way to the other end, and I didn't know where I was going. I had no one really to help me because I didn't know who was in my classes, so it was definitely something I was going to have to get used to.
What did you do to conquer that?
Well, I kept to myself. I usually keep to myself for a while because I'm a very shy person, but I guess I just found like those one or two people that I was lucky to have in my group or in like that I knew in some of my classes, and they kind of helped me out because they were freshmen too, and so they had to get used to it just as much as I did.
So for you, conquering some of that fear of a big campus and new people and new teachers, it helped to find someone with a common knowledge of what it was like to be a little bit scared and be a little bit intimidated by that new big environment, and those were the people who you relied on to help you through. And that's awesome because that does help us sometimes being able to relate to somebody who can say, hey, don't worry, I know how you feel, we can do this together, really does help. So tell me, Chloe, obviously you can't tell me what it's like to be a teenage boy in high school, but what has your experience been being a teenage girl in high school? Have there been any pressures or just social circumstances that you've seen around you that have been a little bit intimidating or that you kind of needed to figure out how to get through so far? Now that you're a couple months in, how does it feel?
Well, I mean, it's always a challenge. There's always like those days or that you just don't know what to do because like you'll see in like in my group, it's like a lot of girls. Have mostly girlfriends, so I have a lot of people to rely on to help me with certain issues. But then I look over and I'm like, well, there's the popular group, you could say, and there's a lot of boys and girls, and they're always talking to each other, and you don't know what's going on, but it's always like, well, can I have some friends that are boys? But then it's also kind of risky because you don't want to get the bad friends, and you want to have the good friends that'll help you through the rough times.
So would you say that that's a challenge for you that you found that you have to overcome, is learning how to relate to the peers who are going to be healthy for you and not unhealthy for you?
Yeah, it is a little bit of a challenge because I am so shy. I always will sometimes run into the people who are kind of not good because I not really a social person.
So maybe it's hard to determine sometimes what someone's intentions might be. And that could be pretty scary, right? Not knowing if someone's going to be a good friend or a bad friend, and you have to figure that out. And that's a difficult thing for adolescents, right? I mean, I know that when I was in high school, like you said, there were cliques and groups all over the place, and it was really hard sometimes, just as you, trying to find my way, especially in the beginning, when my normal group of friends from middle school had kind of dispersed and gone their own ways, and now you're finding yourself just re-experiencing this whole new life. Tell me, do you have any sort of piece of advice that you can give to all of the young adolescent teenage girls out there who are also in school, maybe not freshmen, maybe just in school in general, or maybe they're struggling with homework or studying or grades or social situations? Is there anything, tips that you can give your peers on how to stay encouraged throughout these years?
I think staying positive is definitely something that could help out everyone, because it's hard to stay positive, and especially during school, you have all these things you have to study for, you have homework, and with all these however many classes you have, that's homework piled on homework, and it's a lot. And so it's always good to stay positive, and I think it's always good to have someone you could really rely on, someone that you can always go to for help. For me, it's definitely my friend Abby. She's always been there for me ever since we were born. We've been friends, and I've always been able to rely on her. She gives me her lunch. She gives me advice on homework. She gives me a lot of things, and I'm very grateful for that. She's really helped me through a lot of things.
So you feel like she gives you that moral support that you need to get through any situation.
She really does.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chloe. So thank you for helping me continue to overcome my fears. And remember, fear debilitates us, but courage and being mindful to be courageous in all that we do is what rehabilitates us. Again, thank you so much for joining me today on the Mindful Minute. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to hear a little bit more about what I have to say in the future and how we can apply mindfulness to our lives in different ways, please click that subscribe button, click that like button, and tune in next time. Thank you.